It was an absolutely ginormous weekend for gaming, from the Summer Games Fest to the PC Game Show and everything in between. In this video, I'm going to take you through my highlight announcements, the strategy games in particular, from the weekend that was. And we're going to start right here, right now, with this Victoria 3 gameplay trailer, and I'll take you through some other gameplay trailers and announcement, as well as some information and screenshots that I've gathered together as we move through the video. Anyway, let's start with Victoria 3. Victoria 3 is a grand strategy game from Paradox Interactive. Many of you will be familiar with their work already. Hearts of Iron 4, Stellaris, for example. It's set between 1836 and 1936, so it's a roughly 100-year simulation in, of course, the Victorian age. Here you can see them showcasing a few different locations, a few different types of people. Indeed, the trailer really informed us a lot about how the game will play and what they'll focus on. Not only from sections within society, the wealthy or the poor, but more importantly, how we will manage taxes, production, trade, and construction. And you can see some of the in-game menus and interfaces playing out on the trailer. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of you who have experienced Hearts of Iron 4 and similar Paradox games will feel right at home here. Moreover, though, they also told us a little bit about how the simulation will play out beyond controlling the economy. Taxation. Of course, this is the Victorian age, so there's very much an industrialized feel to the game. It is all about expanding, constructing, producing, but moreover, about pacts, threats, bluffs, that diplomatic action. And if that fails, as you can see, it's time to go to war, again with systems that will be familiar with to you if you've played Victoria 2, but moreover with some of their other titles as well. Victoria 3 yet does not have an official release date, however we do expect it likely to come out within the next 12 months, like most of the other announcements from over this weekend. I'm very much looking forward to delving into what will likely be a highly complex but really enjoyable historical grand strategy simulation game. Another winner, hopefully, coming out of Paradox Interactive sometime very soon. Next, I have the Great Houses of Calderia, one that you may or may not have heard of, but I think it's a pretty exciting one. This is alpha footage shown in their gameplay trailer. What you need to know about this game is essentially they're labeling it as an accessible grand strategy game, where we lead not just one person, but a family of rulers throughout, managing battles in real time, but also allocating things like resources, diplomacy, intrigue. The game is surrounded, as I understand it, by a series of social events as well. So there's that sort of dynamic changing of the game as we move through. They tout it as something that we can kind of use to create endless stories, traditions, values, goals of our family, set in a world that is slightly mythological, as you can gather, in nature. It seems like a really interesting grand strategy game. We didn't receive a lot of information from this very quick trailer, so I will keep you updated. Do subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more Great Houses of Calderia in future. It's got my attention. Speaking of my attention, I've actually made a whole video on this bad boy. This is Ara History Untold. Historical strategy games tend to be my favorite genre, so this announcement's got me pretty excited. It's a brand new turn-based strategy game announced at Microsoft's event just earlier this morning, actually. We don't yet have a release date, but it looks like it's going to release around the start of 2023, so it's not too far away, half a year. Other than that, we don't know an awful lot about how this game will play, except for the fact that it does very much seem to be a Civilization-esque, Humankind-esque historical strategy game with all of the things that we would expect. Now, from the screenshots that you've already seen, and I'll throw another one up on screen in a minute, you can get a feel for the UI, the resources, how the map will look, and what it will feature. Here you can see a natural wonder, a cultural wonder, and the trailer takes us through a journey of history. Indeed, this game is very much about 4X historical strategy, but also with an underlying, perhaps, element of Crusader Kings or sort of old world storytelling. They hinted at that throughout the trailer, about how you'll tell history. They also told us that we'll be able to create our own leaders, but there will also be historical leaders in the game as well, including Egypt, Washington from the US of A, and Greece. Again, I'm looking forward to finding out more about this one as we move through. Next up, we have what could quite possibly be the most competitive real-time strategy game to hit the market in quite a long time. From Frost Giant Studios comes Stormgate. Now, this one received an announcement a few days ago, and people were excited but also a little bit apprehensive. They didn't share a lot of specific gameplay information. They've came back again a few days later with this trailer where they shared a lot more info. So let me relay it to you now. Stormgate will be a real-time strategy game set in a sci-fi fantasy setting hundreds of years from now after a near-extinction event on Earth. It'll have solo and cooperative campaigns, as we understand it, and it will also have a new 3-player co-op versus AI mode. So they actually did share a little bit of information about how the game will actually play this time. We also know that inside of the game, of course, there will be that sort of very StarCraft-esque competitive scene. They've told us that there will be both grassroots and professional tournaments available, and they'll be available from within the game. How they're integrated is, of course, incredibly important, not just to the overall success of the game, but really these real-time strategy games, as you may already know, have a strong niche in the competitive scene. So not only are we interested in how potentially solo, cooperative, or 3-player versus AI campaigns will play out, but more importantly, how will the esports setting respond to this one? As you can see, they're touting it in the trailer, waving your Joy-Cons or whatever in the air. And here we have actually a sneak look at what the game will look like itself. Again, they were very selective about what they shared and how they shared it. You can see we don't really see a lot of the UI or anything like that, but we do get some look at the footage. The game will be, of course, free to play, and as you can see here, there will be no NFTs and it won't be a pay to win. We can register now for a 2023 beta at playstormgate.com. Shiro Games had a lot to share. Let's quickly go through the highlights. Firstly, as you can see, Dune Spice Wars, the real-time strategy game currently in early access. It released on the 26th of April, and they've got a very ambitious roadmap for the rest of its development. What they're teasing here is the next update. There you can see the multiplayer update will be hitting our screens very soon, June 2022. That's this month, right? So we should expect that within the next couple of weeks. They'll probably have other gameplay updates to go alongside of that as well. What you're seeing now is, yet again, another Shiro Games development. This time, you might not quite be able to realize it yet, although you might now with that boat being drawn into the scene. It's, of course, a Northguard trailer, perhaps Shiro Games' most well-known recent title. Basically, what this is saying is that Northguard is receiving yet another expansion. It's really impressive, the development of this one. Here you can see a campaign expansion pack coming this winter. I'm assuming that will be the Northern Hemisphere winter, not mine, so we've probably got a few months to wait for that one yet. And then finally, in their sort of existing game announcements from Shiro Games, they've got some new stuff to share as well. An update here on Wartales. This is another early access title that is currently available on Steam. With this one, they're touting another update, like Dune Spice Wars, but this time it's the cooperative update coming this summer. So again, very soon. Now, Shiro also shared with us 2 new games, and I think we should quickly take a look at those too. They're published by Shiro Unlimited. The first one is called Abyssals. This is a strategy simulation survival game, so kind of within their wheelhouse. Essentially, it's set on the planet Abyss 62E, where we're tasked with surviving the hostile waters. You can see it's an underwater city builder, so a little bit different from the normal ones. The task here is to obtain resources, crucially, oxygen, obtain it, and distribute it throughout your city, right? So there's that kind of growth element to it as well. And finally, of course, as you can probably imagine, this is not a particularly nice environment. So there are hostile creatures and dangers in the sea as well, as you can see. We don't know a lot more about Abyssals other than it's releasing in 2023 and it's available to wishlist on Steam. They also had one other game. It's not a strategy game, so I'll only spend 10 seconds on it, but I thought you might be interested in it because it's published by Shiro Unlimited as well. It's called Decarnation. It's a psychological horror, story-rich game with a female protagonist. Probably not my thing, but I just wanted to include a little glimpse of it here before we move along to the rest of the strategy titles. Now, Amplitude have announced that their Endless universe is expanding even further. You may have already heard of Endless Dungeon. It has been around for a while. Their announcement today, though, was that the open dev is coming, and starting right now, you can register on their website to be the first to experience Endless Dungeon. So what is Endless Dungeon? Well, again, it's not quite fitting perfectly within the strategy genre. However, it rests within the Endless Universe, Endless Legend, and Endless Space, these strategy games that Amplitude Studios is known for and has been producing for quite some time. Really popular ones at that. Endless Dungeon is finally receiving its open dev, so we'll actually have a chance to play this roguelike tactical action game. No, again, not strictly a strategy game, although we do have more strategy game announcements from Amplitude coming up in just a minute, but I thought it would be important to note here because as a regular player of Amplitude titles, and as somebody who likes the Endless Universe, this will likely fit right in within one of those games that I reach to when I'm looking for something a little bit different, but still feeling those comforts of home. I'm looking forward to trying out Endless Dungeon. Hopefully, I can get my hands on that open dev when it comes out. Earlier in the weekend of announcements, as I hinted at before, Amplitude shared a few cool things with us around Humankind game. The first one that you're seeing here, this trailer, is the announcement that Humankind game will be coming to console. Unlike Endless Dungeon, which is coming to Switch, so far all we know is that Humankind will be coming to Xbox and PlayStation. At least that's what's revealed at the end of the trailer here. You'll see that play out. The other thing that we know is the release date. Yes, some clarity around release dates in this video of very murky release date news. Humankind is coming to console on November 4th, and so I'm quietly looking forward to trying it out. It is, of course, already available on Steam as a demo, and it's available on Xbox Game Pass for PC at the moment. We expect it to come to console version of Game Pass when it releases, as you can see, on November 4th as well. That wasn't all of the news for Humankind, of course. We also saw the immediate announcement and release of Humankind Game's second DLC pack, The Cultures of Latin America, following on from the previous Cultures pack. You can see it adds the Caralans into the Ancient Era, Nazca into the Classic, Tainol into the Medieval Era, the Incans into the Early Modern, Argentinians into the Industrial Era, and the Cubans in the Contemporary, and the game also received a Bolivar patch update and a free culture, the Mississippians, to the Medieval Era as well. So loads of exciting Humankind news for historical strategy game fans. And now last but not least, and I really don't know if I should include this or not. I think I'm going to get roasted, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is the new Minecraft strategy action game. Bear with me! Do bear with me. I will quote you the story and the gameplay, and you can determine how much of a strategy game you think this will be. I have my own inklings. The story. Minecraft Legends is a brand new game that tells the story of the overworld uniting against an invasion of ravenous piglins. So that's the story in a nutshell, and you can see it play out in this kind of cinematic trailer here. Oh no, here come the big bad guys coming out to invade our world, and we have to defend against them. Unite the people, defend against them. Okay, so this looks very much like a Minecraft custom map story to me. Where does the strategy element come in, you might be thinking? Well, they shared a little bit of detail about that in a description of the gameplay, and again, I will quote you the gameplay. Minecraft Legends is a unique action strategy game. It has strategy elements at its core, but its mechanics are inspired by the immersion of action games. You get to explore the familiar yet in many ways new overworld in a third-person perspective. You'll defend peaceful settlements and fight hordes of piglins to stop the spread of the nether corruption. You are the center of every battle you lead, fighting alongside your allies while giving them directions. Potentially that's where we see a strategy element come through. They go on to say we'll reveal more about how you'll achieve the monumental task of repelling the invasion in the coming months. Here you can see some actual gameplay footage of what it might look like. We can see perhaps some strategy elements, leading units, moving them through, maybe some base building things here too. I have to admit, I'm quite interested and quite excited to see just how this plays out and how much strategy there is in and around the action. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope I've introduced you to a new game and maybe also some familiar ones too. See you next time.